We've all been reading wrong. It's super easy to blaze through 50 plus books a year and be like, yeah, I did it. I read a bunch of books. I learned so much. But so what? We all think that reading improves our life, but the truth is it doesn't actually until we apply what we learn into our life and apply those changes to change either the way that we act or the way that we think or the way that we do things. Like there needs to be real change in our life for the reading to be life-changing. Duh, right? But we've seen it all over the place. There are people who read 100 books a year, people who read 300 productivity books, and all those things. And we just look at them like, wow, you learned so much. You've read so many books. I've also gone through periods where I read a ton of books. Books on self-improvement, business, productivity, creating content, speaking better. Pretty much any book that I think that I felt like would have made my life better. But reading and memorizing what you read doesn't actually do what you think it does. Most books that I've read before actually don't make a difference in my life. I forget them. I honestly don't even know that I read them. Fast forward like 5 years later, I've forgotten that I've even read them in the first place. Sure, some of them have really cool ideas and I can tell people like, oh, I've read this many books and these books, and people think, oh, that's awesome. Like, oh, she reads, like, cool. But to be honest, it's just entertainment sometimes. Reading, whether it's nonfiction or fiction, can be entertainment. I mean, I love my fiction books, but I also love my nonfiction books too. However, what truly makes a book powerful is when it changes your life. I don't want to be someone who just hoards information. I want to also apply them. So these are the tips and steps that I've taken in my life when I read to make sure that I do something with what I read and I comprehend it instead of just taking in the information and then letting it go. So one is reading slower and reading deeper. Instead of speed reading through the whole book or skimming through it really quickly, I take my time and I do it where I know I am in a state where I can take in the information without feeling rushed. I also have notes that I take on Notion. I tend to read on the Kindle app either on my phone or on my Kindle, and then I'll have a notes page open on my Notion that I'll just take bulleted point notes. I never try to like copy and paste a quote or a line in the book. Instead, I try to summarize it in my own words or summarize like the actionable step that I took from the book. So they're more like short summaries of ideas that I take from the book, and you can see it on my website. I'll link them down below. I just started this recently, so there aren't really that many books yet. I'm still working on that. It's a work in progress. It's always a work in progress. And then afterwards, if I want to apply a specific thing, I'll add it to like a to-do list, especially if it's a single actionable step. Like if a book tells you to think about why you're starting a business, and like you can add think about why you're starting a business to a to-do list, and then later just tackle that to-do. And if a book tells you to like build a certain habit or do something to build a certain habit, like if I really want to build that habit, I'll add it into like a 2 to 3 week goal. If it's a really big one, it could be like a 90-day goal, which I use the template that I created in like this video over here that you can download for free as well. But it's a 90-day sprint where every day you show up and you do the task basically. So to-do lists and goals around the idea that I took from the book to apply it into my life really help. If not, then I'll just forget about it, and it's just really easy to forget about it. Like I can apply something for a week and then it's gone, and until I ingrain it into my life. Because if I can't ingrain it, then I'm just back to the same person that I was in the first place. Something that I'm working on actively right now is like thinking slower, which is in Derek Siver's book Hell Yeah or No, which is when someone asks you something, especially if you don't know the answer or if you have an assumption type of answer that you made a long time ago using your previous used ideas, then that answer might not be an accurate representation of how you feel about the topic now. So instead of blurting out your gut reaction, my goal is to say things like, I don't know yet, or let me get back to you, or we'll see, or let me think about it. And when you think about it, you'll realize that the you right now has a different idea of the topic than the you previously. So your ideas have changed. So that is the habit that I'm building. That book had so many good ideas, but I just wanted to take away one that I wanted to apply to my life right now. So as I was saying, like, to really change your life, you need a tracker of some kind. It could be like a habit tracker, a calendar where you press X's, something to like tangibly know that you're doing the thing instead of forgetting about it. Now the issue with this is that when a book has too many good ideas or too many actionable steps, too many habits to build, it's overwhelming, and it's not really possible to build more than like 1 to 2 habits at once in a sustainable manner where you're actually going to follow through with everything instead of bouncing back to who you were. So my current thing with this is to put all those ideas into like a future projects list or a future habits list, where I want to build a habit, I want to do it, I just don't have time right now. So that goes into the future folder. That way I don't have to reread the whole book again to get that idea. I just need to refer to the list. So when I'm done building this habit right now, I can refer to the list and build that next one. But there are so many books out there, it's overwhelming. And then another thing that I do that I really like doing, because I like creating, is you convert the knowledge that you read in the book into something valuable for other people to read or take in. You can also call this like synthesizing, when you take in your information and your experiences and you synthesize that into something shorter and more valuable to someone else, so they now don't have to read the whole book to get some value out of it. So I like doing this in video form, in blog form. Those are my 2 main methods right now, or I'll talk to somebody about it. Mainly my husband. I talk to him about a lot of the things that I read. But Derek Sivers explains this as breathing in, which is taking in information, and then breathing out, which is producing something from it. So take in inspiration, produce something from it. If you're constantly just breathing in and in and in and in and in, well, you pass out from your carbon dioxide levels rising too high. So it's almost impossible. You can't just keep breathing in. You've got to breathe out. You got to create something tangible as well. So, and the last thing is that I sort of spoke on this before. It's just telling people what you learn. They say that teaching something makes you better at knowing the thing. So instead of just taking it in for yourself, now you can teach somebody else. And by doing that, you benefit, they benefit, everybody benefit. So share what you learn. It might help somebody else. And all this takes like a long time. I've read Atomic Habits like 10 plus times. I'm pretty sure I read it like once or twice a year, and only recently did the ideas really get ingrained into me where I don't have to go to the book and look it over again. So a way to apply what you learn is to conduct experiments on yourself, because you don't know if it'll work for you. It might have worked for the author, but maybe it doesn't work for you. You think it might, so you experiment. It could be a 90-day experiment, it could be a month-long experiment, but you try it out, and at the end you can reflect like, what worked, what didn't, what can I do better, what can I do differently for next time. And in the meantime, you can read for entertainment, you can read fiction, you can read like other things where so you don't get an overwhelming influx of actionable steps into your future projects folder. I've been reading Sapiens for now, and I think it's a great book. I don't think it's going to change my life, but I think I'm exposing myself to some really cool ideas from it. I like reading because I like having my ideas challenged or expanding my mind to different ideas. So reading is really fun. You can't apply everything that you read though. There's just too much information everywhere right now. The internet, books, videos, podcasts, just way too much information, and we really got to pick and choose what we consume now because there's just too much. So remember that building habits takes time. You can only do 1 or 2 at once, and if you can't build it into a habit that's automatic, then you just revert back to the way that you were before you read the book. Then the book might as well have been a TV show that you binged and poof, it's gone. And even if you don't take any action, like, it'll be okay, because I heard somewhere on a podcast that the good stuff sticks. So if you hear it enough times, it'll eventually, hopefully stick into your life, and then you'll apply it, even if you don't very intentionally, consciously choose to do it. So there's that caveat, there's that hope. So you might actually ingrain something because you've heard it so many times in your life. So those are my current steps to apply what I learned, how to actually get something from the books that I read. Now that I really don't have a ton of time to read with a baby and this YouTube thing and everything else, I have to be very intentional with what I read and then what I do after I read. So I hope this helps you out, and if you're interested in the 90-day sprint video, watch this right here. It's got a free Notion template that you can download. You just put in your email, and happy reading.